The Algerian War of Independence. A struggle that reshaped a nation and a colonial empire, the Algerian War of Independence was one of the most brutal and consequential decolonization struggles of the 20th century. It marked the end of 132 years of French colonial rule in Algeria and led to the emergence of an independent Algerian state. Beyond Algeria itself, the conflict profoundly impacted French politics, society, and the global anti-colonial movement. Fought with guerrilla tactics, ideological fervor, and immense human cost, the war remains deeply embedded in the collective memory of both nations. French colonization and the roots of rebellion. France invaded Algeria in 18, and by mid-century it had incorporated the territory as part of metropolitan France rather than as a standard colony. This created a unique and often volatile situation. Algeria became a settler colony, home to hundreds of thousands of Europeans. Pieds Noirs who enjoyed political rights and land ownership, while the majority Muslim Algerian population was systematically excluded from political participation and subjected to economic hardship and racial discrimination. By the 20th century, calls for reform and equality had repeatedly been dismissed or violently repressed. After World War II, especially following the massacre of thousands of Algerian civilians in N'Djamena, in Etenjo-by-Sichawou, nationalist sentiment intensified. France's refusal to offer genuine autonomy or integration led many Algerians to the belief that armed struggle was the only path to liberation. The FLN and the beginning of the conflict. On November 1, 1954, a date now commemorated as the start of the Revolution of Front de Ration National, launched coordinated attacks on military and civilian targets throughout Algeria. Though modest in scale, these attacks signaled the beginning of a nationwide resistance movement. The FLN's goal was clear: to expel French colonial forces and establish a sovereign Algerian nation. France responded with overwhelming military force, deploying over 500,000 soldiers over the course of the war. The government used a brutal combination of repression, including mass arrests, systematic torture, forced arrests. These tactics, although militarily effective in some cases, alienated the local population and drew international condemnation. A war without borders. The Algerian War quickly evolved into a multi-front struggle. In rural areas, FLN guerrilla fighters used the rugged terrain of the mountains in Gaulle to stage ambushes and evade French patrols. In urban centers, particularly in Algiers, FLN operatives planted bombs and orchestrated assassinations as part of a campaign to destabilize colonial administration. This culminated in the notorious Battle of Algiers, during which French paratroopers employed widespread torture to dismantle FLN networks. Beyond military action, the FLN also built a sophisticated political and diplomatic campaign, gaining support from newly independent nations, Arab states, and non-aligned countries. Its cause became a symbol of the global anti-colonial struggle. France in crisis. Domestic fallout and political transformation. The war deeply fractured French society. While many in France supported the preservation of Algeria as part of the Republic, others condemned the war's brutality. The revelations of torture, the costs of war, and mass conscription led to protests, political instability, and military In 1958, amid fears of a military coup, General Charles de Gaulle returned to power. Though initially ambiguous, de Gaulle gradually moved toward supporting Algerians. His decision to hold negotiations with the FLN alienated many French settlers and army officers, culminating in a failed military rebellion, the Putsch of 1961, the Evian Accords, and the birth of Algeria. In March 1962, after intense negotiations, the Evian Accords were signed, leading to a ceasefire and providing for a referendum on independence. On July 1, 1962, Algerians voted overwhelmingly in favor of independence. Just days later, on July 5, Algeria officially became a free nation. The aftermath was chaotic and painful. Nearly 1 million Pieds Noirs and thousands of pro-French Algerians fled the country, fearing retribution. Many Harkis who remained were massacred in the post-independence chaos, a tragedy still debated and mourned today. Post-independence challenges an enduring legacy under the leadership of the FLN. Algeria quickly established a one-party socialist state. It nationalized industries, redistributed land, and promoted an Arabization policy to reduce French cultural influence. However, the scars of war ran deep, and the challenges of reconstruction, political repression, and identity formation remained. The war's legacy still resonates in both Algeria and France. In Algeria, the revolution is central to national identity, celebrated in schools, media, and public life. In France, debates over the war, its brutality, and the treatment of Algerian immigrants continue to stir controversy and reflection. Only in recent years have French presidents begun to acknowledge and apologize for some of the atrocities committed during the conflict. The Algerian War of Independence was a watershed moment not only for Algeria but for global decolonization. It was a war waged not only with bullets and bombs, but with ideas, diplomacy, and sacrifice. The Algerian people paid a tremendous price for their freedom, but in doing so, They reshaped their destiny and helped redefine the boundaries of colonial empires in the modern age.